DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's show here on DJN TV. I'm John Young, your host tonight. Tonight we're going to do kind of a mid-summer update, what have you, however you want to look at this. Earlier in the season, earlier in the year, we did a few looks at how the COVID situation is going to affect our summer 2020 weddings. And we had a lot of disagreement. We had a lot of folks who got a little kind of testy about it. And tonight, that's not what I'm after, of course. What I'm after is we're going to kind of revisit a few factors that are going to be something that possibly could help you figure out as we go into the rest of 2020. I got to do that. As we go into the rest of 2020 and into 2021. Actually, we just lost one of our chats, so I'm just getting my chat window back up here so I can follow the chats out on Facebook or out on YouTube. And it's always so much fun when you've got to go and click on the verify things. A bus. And that's, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so now if you've got any questions or you have any thoughts, we can get to that. So tonight, what we're going to dig into is we're right kind of at the midway point of summer, and for most of us, we've been able to get out and do a couple of shows here recently, but we've been looking at a season of basically complete shutdown. It hasn't. If you've been working in venues, it's the world has completely changed, and I'm hoping in about 10 years when we look back at this, it's going to be like, oh, remember that blip in time for our businesses. What we're looking at going forward, there's a few indicators that I wanted to just talk about, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to get yourself kind of ready to handle things as they go forward. First off, we're going to have in the next couple of weeks, the economy is going to really become a big issue, I think, for a lot of people, because we're going to be looking at a time when businesses that had to shut down, they came back online, and one of the big things that a lot of restaurants and bars and such in some areas are finding is that they were back, but the crowds are not coming back. And now that we've had an increase of cases that we keep hearing about every day, many of the people who would be coming back to the restaurants and things are feeling less secure going back to the restaurants. So their numbers are down. Some of the staff that they rehired and brought back in are now being released. Businesses across the country, we hear about it, some big layoffs and things that are going on with a lot of businesses that are based in Minnesota, because we do have a lot of Fortune 500 companies that are based here. We're actually one of the more populous states that are having the most Fortune 500 companies here. There's a lot of layoffs that are happening. These things are going to be working together to cause not only the unemployment, there's going to be more people on the unemployment line, but there's going to be less of that the economy is going forward and that optimism, because you've got people who are being laid off and losing their jobs, and people are going to be tighter with their money, which our world is a kind of a consumeristic type world, especially the United States, where if everyone is out there spending money, the money flows and things are going well. As soon as people start holding on to too much money, even though our good friend Dave Ramsey talks about that being a good thing, and for most of us it probably is, it grinds our economy to a halt. So business layoffs are going to be a big thing that you're going to be hearing about, and that's going to be affecting what we're looking at here going forward. Hospitality, travel, and tourism have taken a hit, and they're going to continue to take a hit, and this hit may not stop in 2021. Some experts in that arena are now looking at pushing their forecasts out to 2022 before the travel industry is even going to be a shell of what it once was. In that time, you're going to have some major companies that are going to have to do something. Some of these hotel chains, some of the airlines and such are not going to be back to a profitable measure We were talking to a person at that works with the Hilton, and their bookings at that particular Hilton are 95% off what they were last year. So in a course of a month, they're making basically barely enough to pay one salary compared to last year when they were making, I believe they brought in over $1 million in that same month. So it's a huge hit, and we know this as DJs because we're not out there performing. We've taken that hit. Those areas are not going to come back quickly because they rely on people feeling good, feeling confident, traveling, attending things, getting together, and it's not coming back soon. There's going to be new rounds of shutdowns. We're hearing it today. Today, California announced that they're shutting some things down. Texas is shutting some things down. We're going to be seeing that as this still on the first wave, but as this virus is adjusting, or we're adjusting, or we're not adjusting, however you want to look at it, it's going to have more cases, and they're going around the country. And that is kind of pushing its way back up. And we're going to be seeing that in the upper Midwest. We're starting to see more positive cases. We're not seeing the hospitalizations yet, and hopefully that won't get to that level. But we're seeing more cases, which takes away the customer confidence, whether they're going to go and buy things and spend their money, or they're going to go out to a restaurant, or they're going to go travel to Susie's wedding. When that confidence is wavering when it comes to people and their faith of being safe, that changes the dynamics of what can happen and how successfully they can happen. So that's going to be another big area that's going to be a problem with that. The final one is you're going to see that little $600 unemployment thing. I think we're going to feel that one a lot more in our economy than we really think. First off, there's people who are on unemployment that probably could have gone back to work, but they've stayed on it, and I get that. You're making more money on unemployment than you were at your day job. Well, for some of them, their day job's not going to be there anymore for whatever reason, whether it was because it was something that they would have come back and they would have had to leave it again, or it might be that they've been replaced. Whatever it is, we're going to have a situation where the people who are on unemployment had that $600, and that was basically additional fun money, for lack of a better way to describe it. They could still continue to invest in the economy. They could go out, and if they saved a couple of weeks, they could maybe buy a TV that they were planning to buy, or they could go and they could food shop, or they could still do some of these things, and instead of just buying the ramen noodles, maybe they could buy the SpaghettiOs or whatever. I don't know. That hit for a person who's on unemployment is $2,400 a month, basically gone. That's going to be an effect because they're now not spending that money in the economy. Without that money, that means that some places that were relying on making those sales. I mean, specifically, let's look at in our food budget, the price of hamburger and the price of pork and everything went up incredibly, especially in the upper Midwest. We were paying $7 a pound for hamburger for a period of time. Well, it didn't hurt as much for those who were getting that little bump. Toilet paper went from being $12 for the big pack to $24 or $30. It didn't hurt if you were on unemployment and you were getting that additional $600 to cover those costs. Now, without that, for some people, they're going to have to go back to doing things in a different way, and that money's not going to be flowing through the economy. That could definitely affect situations as we go forward. On the virus front, you guys, I'm sure, have been hearing and following and such of what's going on. A couple of factors I wanted to touch on. One is a study that's coming out of China. And again, the reliability of these things, it is what it is. The word is being spread or coming out of there that some of the early health care workers that had become infected with the virus, now they have basically a percentage of them, and I believe they're talking upwards of a third of those who had the virus no longer are testing with antibodies from the virus. So they're speculating that for some people, they only are going to have the antibodies for a very limited window of time. That concept, adding to that the unpredictable nature of how it spreads and how it can go and spread in some areas worse than others, and with people without wearing, we're adding these things together, and it's really making for a perfect storm here in the United States. When it comes to, we've got this thing, it's unpredictable. It can go and it can jump and it can kill some people. Probably not going to kill those of us who are under 50, although some do die. It's going to be something that's going to affect others. It's the customer confidence that's going to be the biggest problem, is people who are concerned of their health aren't going to participate. What that is showing us is we jump into a survey that was just put out here just a little bit ago from Shane McMurray from the Wedding Report. Some people look at the wedding reports information and are like, hey, this is some great stuff. And some people are like, yeah, they're very skeptical of it. The point is that Shane's done some survey. Surveys are just about as good as the sample audience that you're taking it from. But there's a few things that are in here that could be interesting to look at. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Looking at some of the surveys of talking about, that of the 2020 events, there's a percentage of couples who moved their events to later in the year. We know that. We've all experienced that. Some that moved it into next year. Most of them moved it into next year, which is what happened with most of my shows for 2020. And the part that is interesting to me is we kind of go down there and talk about 7% canceled altogether. And some of them are trying to hold their dates and have scaled their events back. So you've got all these different things. But it's the cutting of the budget. This is an interesting one. A lot of people in the wedding industry are talking about as we go into 2021, they're like, I lost 2020. I got to catch back up. I'm going to raise my prices. I did a series of 3 different shows videos talking about keeping your prices, raising your prices, or dropping your prices. Unfortunately, a lot of DJs are reporting that as couples are going into next year, and even Shane's numbers are saying this, that 46% of the couples are planning to drop or cut their budget, probably partially because of their numbers, but they're going to drop it about 30% in that ballpark. In my experience, from what I've had hearing from my couples, a couple of, I think 2 or 3 of the clients basically said, we're just going to roll everything over, same package, everything, we're just going to go to a different date. Great. Most of them have done something to trim something out of it. In my case, it's been pretty much photo booth. The photo booth thing, they're like, you know what, let's just take that out because it's going to be a situation that we don't really, it's not going to give us the bang for the buck, whatever. People are going to be looking at that, possibly trimming the cost. In some cases, I can see that couples are going to be looking at it and say, you know what, it's music. We just want to have background music. They may decide that they're going to go and rebook someone else, eat the retainer or let the retainer go and book someone else at a cheaper rate. This is going to be an issue, I think, as we get into November, December, January, where we have couples who were planning to have this amount of money for their wedding, and now they're having to live off that money because of maybe their job isn't there or their income level is down. Instead of having $20,000 to use for their wedding, they might be looking at $12,000 or $10,000 or whatever they're looking at. Be aware that this could be coming. You may have couples who are wanting to renegotiate or cut things out of their day. They're reporting it, and it could be a big thing come next year. Guest count, I think, is going to be one of those areas, though, that is where most of the cuts are going to be made. I could see us, if you were doing a really cool uplighting package, they might want to scale that back. Or if you were doing, a 5-hour dance instead of a 4-hour dance, they may want to cut that back. But I think the guest count is going to be the biggest spot where you're going to see, and that's mainly because a lot of guests don't feel that confidence or being comfortable as they go into weddings, or going to weddings or social events next year. A lot of DJs are looking now and they're getting the inquiries for 2021 and they're like, hey, it's going to be a banner year. And people are just absolutely crazy and excited and they're going to go forward for next year. This is a double-edged sword in one hand. On one hand, it makes us feel good. It's like, okay, this is looking like there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Keep in mind, don't be lulled into a sense of complete security with that, because this situation may extend well into 2021. And if we get into a point in 2021 where the virus, the vaccine isn't here yet because they think it's still going to take time, even though they're doing trials, there's going to be time. And then there's the inoculation time of trying to inoculate all the people in the United States. And then we're going to have people who won't take the vaccine because it's against their things. And then we have the people who won't wear a mask because it's against their, and then there's people who won't stay 6 feet away because you put all these things together. This could be with us for a very, very long time. So all of these events that are getting excited and moving to next year, some of them will go. There's no question about it. And they're going to be, whether it's a smaller wedding or maybe they have to move it outdoors. I've got a large wedding that they were planning at one time, close to 400 people. They've scaled it way back and they moved it outdoors so that they could be as safe as possible. We're going to see some creative things like that going forward. I don't want you to be lulled into the idea that you're looking at your books and you're saying, wow, look at here. In my July of 2021, I have 35 shows booked, or whatever you could possibly have, because we're booking Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. We're booking multiple nights a week. It looks good now, but if there's one lesson from 2020 we need to look at is December of 2019, January of 2019, we would have been talking about what a banner year 2020 was going to be. Well, we now have a virus that may still be with us next year. So these events, while nice to see on the books, may not be what we ultimately do. Keep that in mind. What can you do with it as a DJ company? For some of you, you're out there working right now. You're doing shows. I know some DJs who are doing shows. They've done shows Friday and Saturday here for the last number of weeks. Celebrate that. Do those shows. Protect yourself as much as possible. Take every dime you possibly can and squirrel them away right now. Make sure you're getting your credit cards paid up, whatever you need to do to get to the point. This virus thing is going to spread across the country, and even in our little rural towns, we're seeing it creep out as more people are getting out into social settings. They go social setting here, they go social setting here, and now we're having cases. It's going to spread. It's just going to get there. It's in Alaska, and it's spreading around Alaska. Hello, how more remote can you get than that? Be aware it will get to you in time. It may take another month. It might be in 3 weeks. It could be in 2 months. It'll get there. Be prepared. Squirreling money away as best you can right now. Trying to get your things set up so you can function, do your shows, do them at a high rate, but getting yourself prepared so that if things get shut down in your market, that you've got a little nest egg to put together. Another thing, and Joe Bunn talked about this in some of his videos recently about talking COVID, is it might be time for some of us to look for a second job. It might be to find that diverse income. The pivot thing, you're going to hear more about that, and you've heard a ton about that, but it might be time to find a way to bring in some income. So in case our entertainment industry does get shut down, and what I'm going to say, I'll get back to that in just a second. If we can't make money one way, we need to be able to make money for our family the other way. And there's no shame in doing that. Going out and getting a job, at the local gas station, the local hardware store, what have you. I'm seeing a lot of people who are doing that. And you know what? That's great. They're out there doing what they can do to keep their family, make ends meet and keep their family going. If you need to do that, there's no shame in that. Do what you need to do. So talking about events getting shut down, a couple of things on that, and then I'm going to wrap the video up here, is some countries have been opened and weddings have been able to function. Word is coming from these weddings that happened in June, late June, that some of these weddings have had major cases and major outbreaks of the COVID with the guests. And some of them are now being hospitalized in that time frame because it takes time for that to come through. There's a couple of countries that are talking about basically eliminating weddings and dancing. Maybe weddings smaller, but dancing and alcohol. There's different variations. The thing it keeps coming back is that these are events where they gather people and hire DJs or could hire DJs. And those are going to be on the chopping block, unfortunately, as these cases and things start to come through. Be aware of that. We aren't something that is a required thing. Yes, music is nice. The wedding and the ceremony and the 10 people that is there, that's probably that's the required. We're just a really cool addition to the day that makes it more fun, makes it more memorable, do all these great things. But at the end of the day, they don't need DJs to get married. They need the other things to get married. We're just there to make it a better day and a bigger celebration. If the government at whatever level says, you know what, you can't have people doing that celebration because it's not good. It's a super spreader type event. It could happen. It definitely could happen. I was talking to another hotel manager at a hotel this late last week, and there is one of the national chains of hotels that has properties around the world. They're telling inside their corporate communications to GMs of all their hotels, they're telling them that you're going to probably have 2 to 3 maybe weeks of weddings in most markets. Then they're expecting sometime in mid-August for things to basically be shut down indoor wedding-wise for the rest of the year. I don't know how accurate that is, of course. I do know that this was the memo that came through. That part I can tell you for surely that came. What the point that they're looking at is things like that are happening internationally in different countries where they're looking at weddings being a super spreader event and the dance being a spreader event because everyone's on top of each other. Very few DJs that you talk to that are doing weddings right now are finding people social distancing on the dance floor. I have seen pictures. It does exist, but most of them that doesn't. So you put all these things together into this little pot, stir it all up, and what do we get? It could be a long, cold winter for us in the entertainment business. So to summarize, any money you can whittle away right now, this is the time to do it and get your things set. Basically, for many of us in the upper Midwest, it's really November thinking for us right now is how can we get ready for the long, cold winter, which could start here September 1st for a lot of us, or has already been going for several months. But we need to be preparing ourselves as best we can to be able to make it through. Eventually, we'll get to the point where either there will be enough people with it, have gotten it, or we'll have to the point where people will be like, masks are a thing. And if we can keep it from spreading too much and keep the thing down, it'll just become something we live with. However it happens, we just are going to have to find time to survive as a business until we get beyond this thing. And I think we can definitely do that at some point in time. It's just our world is going to change of how we function as people in the United States, and how we handle a lot of our social settings. So if you need to look at diversify your income, figure a way to do that. If it works that you can function as you are and continue on, yay, more power to you. But don't hope that September 1st comes along and you'll be rolling in shows, because unfortunately, this is still, as they've been talking about, this is still the first wave of this, and we get into flu season, and that, if there was anything the 1918 swine flu taught us, is that then we hit November and the actual flu season, and things just shot up. We hit in November where people are indoors and they're not getting out and about as much. It can go crazy during that time from past experiences. So where we are today is we could be in a much worse spot in 2 to 3 months, or it could just taper or just be kind of a slow burn, as they call it. The idea is that right now it's in our control for a lot of us how we're going to move forward and getting ourselves, taking care of our family, going in if we need to do the income thing or do the pivot thing, whatever. I've seen a lot of people who have had manufacturing things within the DJ and photo booth world who have changed and are now doing completely different things and making and selling different products. That's what you needed to do, and some of you jumped on that right away and you've made money doing that. Hats off to you, and I applaud you for being that proactive. But for a lot of us, it's a decision now that we look at. We were counting on August to be the time back. It may not be the time back. It might be time for us to look at what it's going to take to continue to support our family as we go into the later 2020 and into 2021. So just going to go through some of the chat room, and I apologize for that. I didn't have the window up, and I just realized. Joe mentions first birthday coming up here on August 8th. And Joe, there's a fear to that. I get you. I'm 51 myself here, and they're 51. I'm 51. Yeah. There's a concern. I've done some outdoor things, but I've got an event coming up here that's going to be indoors, and I'm very uncomfortable. I don't know how to deal with that. Yeah. Jimmy mentioning that John Travolta in the Bubble Boy movie from way back in the 70s. He's going to wear one of those. Yep. The location, a lot of people the DJs have been going in a corner. I was just talking to a DJ earlier today, and he mentioned that he had requested to be ways away from the guests in the corner. And he said the guests are still coming up to him and getting in his face and making requests and doing that. He was recommending the guest text request to him. The problem is people don't want to text you their phone number. Hello, that's just not a smart thing. And Jimmy mentions Brandon's request at DJ, instantdjrequest.com. You guys can go check that out. Instant DJ requests. That's Brandon. That's my son. He created that. And basically what that is you can print out a QR code. You can set it on the tables. People can hover their phone over it. It'll pop open a page, and then they can just type in the request. It'll auto-propagate the song title, and once they're like, yep, that's it, click, boom, it's gone. Grandmas can do it. Anybody can do it. So it's a neat tool that instantdjrequest.com. I got it right. So that's what that is. You guys can definitely check that out. I'm going to get back up here. 90%. So yeah, Alexander here talking about destination weddings, that 90% of the bookings have moved till next year, and the last ones are probably still debating about it. Wedding shows have been canceled. Actually, I was talking to someone who's talking about a wedding show, and they were doing it, spacing the booths out a little bit more, and they were having it so that only a limited number of people could be in, so they could buy a ticket for a block of time. They could come in from 10 to 11, let's say, and that was their time to come in and go check out the exhibitors, and then they had to leave, and then the next people came in. So there's going to be some cancel shows, but it's all about the consumer confidence. And yes, the people going to a bridal show to participate, not exhibitors, but attendees, typically are younger, except for moms and dads, but they're usually younger, which of course that group seems to not be as concerned in some ways. So could go, but I think those are going to be something where that consumer confidence is a huge part of what we are and what we do. And if they don't have it, then their bookings and things are not going to go our way. Smaller weddings, private homes, yeah, that's what we're going to be seeing more of that way. And that's why, our second show tonight, we're going to talk about how to keep cool outdoors, because a lot of people have been moving from indoors to outdoors, and we're going to dig into that. Joe mentions, I'm going to have to move out of my office. That is probably one of the biggest statements I have heard in the last probably month, is DJs who have had office space and have gotten to the point where they're looking at that calendar and saying, I can't afford my office space anymore, and they've moved out. And some pretty big names in there that a couple of years ago, some of these DJs were showing their offices, and they were spectacular. It was like an experience to go into these rooms, and wow, it was impressive. And they've had to let these things go because they cost, thousands of dollars a month. So Joe, you're not alone, my friend. There's going to be a lot of people. It's just a lot of people are going to have to do that. Scott's talking about renting out cornhole tables and different things such as that. There's opportunities to do some small things. People have been doing some drive up events, what have you. There's a lot of opportunities for small dollar events. If you can do those and you got the right situation, yay, rah, rah. Some people are making money. Tomorrow night, we're actually going to talk with Ben Still about the drive-in theaters, how to create a drive-in theater. Many markets are doing this kind of okay, but it's one of those things that it might be something to add to your repertoire, because you might have a city that is looking for something to get people spread out across the lawn, socially distanced. They can be 10, 12 feet apart, and having a family event. This could be an option. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow night, is creating that event. Oh, Mike, hey, used Brandon's app this weekend. Thanks, Mike. That it worked great. Excellent. Brandon's been putting a lot of time into creating that. So take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Take care of your business. And if it means changing, tweaking, this is so unprecedented. We've never had anything like this in the DJ world. As I mentioned, some big names have had to scale back, and it does hit the ego. Right in the jimmies. Jimmy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it that way. Right in your yeah. It really hurts. That's okay to say, it wasn't you failing. There's no we're not failing here. It's something that we couldn't predict. You can't fight. We just have to do the best with the hand we're dealt and move forward. And whatever that means, it's going to mean a different thing for each one of us. And hopefully you can figure that out, and you've got some trusted friends that you can talk to and make the best decision for your future with your business and your family and your income and all those aspects, that you can make the best decision that's going to keep you solvent and ready to go in 2021, 2022, when things start to come back to hopefully a level of normal life. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back here at the top of the hour. Dan and I are going to be talking about how to keep cool outside. We've done versions of this show tonight. We're going to just revisit a few topics. We've got a few more things that we're going to show and have some fun with that. So go get yourself a cup of coffee or whatever you are drinking tonight, and we will see you at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.